ASMR Magical Tools. Hi, welcome back. Let's start talking about the ephemera. Let's talk about Monday, which is Memorial Day. It is May 31st. So we have an overnight energy coming in from Sunday the 30th. And that is Mars in Cancer is trine Neptune in Pisces, and that energy is going to be a little bit complicated because Mars is this very belligerent, very self-centered kind of an energy, and it's in this water sign of Cancer, so it's very much in its feelings right now. And trine this very nebulous, spiritually minded Neptune and Pisces energy, it could go any direction, really. That Neptune in Pisces is going to help. I think it might help people see that things are not always what they seem, and so it's important to take a step back and not just be reactionary. But it'll also be overnight, so hopefully it won't be too dramatic. Then on Monday, we have quincunx between the moon in Aquarius and Mars in Cancer. And that's going to be in the afternoon. So with that moon in Aquarius, what we're seeing is hidden things coming to light in regards to social groups, and also in regards to new ideas. The moon energy is very creative too, so it's possible that you could get a strike of inspiration. And that Mars in Cancer energy, like I mentioned before, is going to be very people just being in their feelings about their own situations, and possibly having a hard time empathizing with others. So that quincunx, you might realize things about your social group that you didn't think about before that lead you to make some changes. The next energy is a trine between the moon in Aquarius and Mercury in Gemini, and Mercury is retrograde again. It's been retrograde since Saturday the 29th. So you can look forward to possible missed communications with people, possible problems with short distance travel. But I'd like to reiterate that Mercury retrograde shouldn't put your life on hold. What it really does is it brings to light any problems, any difficulties that already exist in the pre-existing framework. So with that moon in Aquarius trine, that could involve social groups. It could involve new ideas. So Mercury and Gemini, it might be, Gemini is one of Mercury's native signs. And it could have to do with new ideas. It could have to do with siblings, especially if you have a large family. And that can also be like your surroundings in general, like your neighborhood, people who live near you. That's also possible. So that trine might end up helping you out in different ways. And trines are generally a harmonious energy. So it's supposed to kind of like buffer that energy, whatever that energy is. And the trines are always the same elemental energy. So it's a water trine in this case. And then moving into Tuesday, we have an overnight energy, which is the moon in Aquarius, trine Venus in Gemini. And Venus and Mercury were conjunct when? Also on Saturday, the same day when Mercury went retrograde. So Mercury and Venus, well, that's kind of like overnight. Between Friday the 28th and Saturday the 29th, Venus and Mercury were conjunct. And then Mercury immediately went retrograde. So Mercury and Venus they're not identical energies, certainly. But the emphasis there being on this kind of sexuality and exploration of gender might also be something that comes out with that. And Venus doesn't just have to do with love. She also has to do with finances and like making coin. Not wealth expansion like Jupiter, but definitely like, why do I want to say fecundity? But like being able to, the fertility of making money, basically. And Mercury is this very quick energy. So Mercury bringing that swiftness to romance and also to money coming in. And in Gemini, that could be in your neighborhood, it could be related to siblings, things like that. And that's also going to be when the moon is void of course. Void of course. So, with that moon in Aquarius, definitely could have to do with social groups. The moon is a very creative sign. It's very attached to feminine energy, to people who menstruate also. So, and I mean, all of us are over 70% water. So the moon is pulling on those fluids. It's very evident in people who menstruate because of that apparent sign, but everybody is really affected by that ebb and flow of the moon. So there's a cyclical aspect to that as well. So now we're looking at Tuesday, which is the 1st of June. We have that overnight energy. So those of you on the East Coast, that's when you're going to be experiencing that trine between Moon in Aquarius and Venus in Gemini. The Moon is then going to enter the sign of Pisces, so a water sign. And early in the morning, the Moon in Pisces is going to conjunct Jupiter. So this is going to be around 5 in the morning or 8 in the morning. And again, that depends on which coast you live closest to in the United States specifically. The moon in Pisces, so it's a very watery energy. Pisces is mutable water and has to do with intuition. So this could be a very like intuitive time where something all of a sudden comes to you because the moon has cyclically moved into Pisces. With that Jupiter in Pisces energy. So Jupiter is about wealth, about expansion, and is native to the mutable sign of Sagittarius, which is fire energy. But it is mutable. So as far as like if any of the water and fire signs might be able to meet somewhere in the middle, it would be Sagittarius and Pisces because of their mutability and being able to kind of shift and adjust these things. But because of that mutability, it also makes it unpredictable. And water energies can be difficult to control, just like fire energies. Water is considered a passive element, whereas fire is active. And when you're looking at something like wealth and expansion, especially the expansion, some people complain about possible weight gain also during certain Jupiter cycles. So that's something to keep in mind. Things will be expanding. And because of that, Jupiter is associated with wealth, but the expansion doesn't have to be specific to wealth. So just keep that in mind. It could be a very watery type of expansion. So there's a lot to consider there. And again, that's going to be on Tuesday, June 1st. Next, we're going to be looking at Wednesday, which is the 2nd of June. So we're getting into the summer months now. It's getting warmer outside. Go to the swimming pool, go to the beach, go to the lake. And especially with all this Pisces energy, right? So right after midnight or right after 3 a.m., again, depending on your coast, the moon in Pisces is going to square the sun in Gemini. Now, this is a very interesting square. This moon in Pisces being very watery, possibly lending itself to intuitive thinking, intuitive ideas, right? And then the sun in Gemini, exploring duality within the self, exploring how am I different from other people? Communication, these things. It could be a night where you might be inclined to a prophetic dream, but somebody keeps you up all night talking. Or you do end up going to sleep and you have a stress dream that does end up being highly prophetic, but is based in communication, maybe like a bunch of missed phone calls in the dream. Something like that. There's still a message there, though, as well. The next thing that happens on Wednesday is the moon in Pisces is sextile Uranus in Taurus. And that Uranus in Taurus energy, what is best for the group as far as finances and security are concerned. That's one aspect of it. It's also brand new ideas about finances and security. And boy, have we had a lot of those over the past year or so as Uranus has been in Taurus. It's been a very interesting time. So when you get that very highly intuitive moon in Pisces energy and it's sextile this Uranus in Taurus energy, you could all of a sudden realize, like, oh my God, I've been so insensitive to my roommate. They have like this favorite silverware and I really like it and I always use it because I like it a lot. And it's never clean when they want to use it. And I just realized I was doing that. And maybe you realize it on your own. Maybe you don't have to be told. So that's a possibility. Or moon in Pisces, like just feeling very empathetic toward other people. That helps you come up with new ideas for putting forward new types of financial and new types of financial stability, basically. On Wednesday, the sun in Gemini is going to be sextile Chiron in Aries. And that's going to be shortly after that sextile between the moon and Uranus, and will be very harmonious to that energy. So, whereas that was water and earth, now we've got air and fire. The water waters the earth, that leads to fertility. Air and fire combined, that's a different sort of fertility. It definitely leads to the proliferation of the fire. Spoiler alert. So that sun in Gemini, again, communication, relationships with siblings, relationships with other people where you're looking at your differences, which isn't necessarily bad. And then that Chiron in Aries. So Chiron being about healing the self, and Aries being about the self and beginnings also, but very self-directed. It's a very young sort of an energy. And I don't say that to diminish it in any way. Aries just leads the astrological wheel and governs the first house. So when we are seeing this sextile here, it's going to be very similar to what I was saying about moon in Pisces and Uranus in Taurus, that you could be healing things about yourself that have a tendency to be selfish in favor of improving your communication with people who are different from you. And then next on Wednesday, the planet of Venus is going to enter Cancer. And remember, Mars is already in Cancer, so Venus entering Cancer is actually going to help kind of temper that environment where we have Mars being very aggressive and then Venus shows up and he gets a little bit distracted. We all get a break, right? And then on Wednesday, we have a couple of overnight energies. So the first of which is going to be the moon is going to be conjunct Neptune in the sign of Pisces. All right. And Neptune, this is a really cool conjunction, especially in the water sign of Pisces, because Neptune is like the higher vibration of the moon. The moon's a very watery energy. It controls all the water here on Earth with its magnetic pole. And Neptune is in its native sign of Pisces right now. So this is going to be a heavily intuitive time. You could look forward to some prophetic dreams, if that's a possibility for you. You might get visions of some kind. You might just feel more in touch with other people and not necessarily have to communicate verbally with them to understand where they're coming from. And then the last energy that we're going to be looking at on Wednesday specifically is a square between the moon in Pisces and Mercury in Gemini, which is now retrograde. Gemini is mutable energy as well. So you've got the two passive elements, water and air, and then you've got them both mutable signs. So the air blowing whichever way the wind goes, and that very watery energy of the moon in Pisces. Mercury in Gemini, especially retrograde, you might be looking at trouble with communication or trouble with short distance travel. And that moon in Pisces, things could be brought to light. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that it's going to be a little bit, there's going to be a little bit of friction there to deal with. And it might have to do with communication of some kind. All right, let's look at Thursday, the 3rd of June. We have those two overnight energies. And that square between the moon and Mercury, that is that overnight energy carried over from Wednesday. Some of you on the East Coast, that's going to be occurring like around 2 in the morning. So it'll end up being on Thursday. But that opportune period is going to last from either 11:24 or 2:24 until 11 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon. So about a 12-hour window, most of it overnight. And that's going to be when the moon enters Aries too. It's going to be the ending of that opportune period. It's a great time to let go of toxic emotions and create harmony within, helped by the trine between Venus and Jupiter. And that trine is going to be occurring actually outside of the opportune period, much later in the afternoon. And we'll talk about that soon. And there's a warning about it, which is the same as for last Sunday. And we are between eclipses, and Mercury is in retrograde. So you really want to focus on things. Okay, you really want to focus on things that you started before May 22nd. And the reason for that is because that is when the Mercury retrograde shadow period started. So just keep that in mind for Thursday, June 3rd, when you are blessed with this opportune period. Around 1 in the morning or 4 in the morning, the moon in Pisces is going to trine Mars in Cancer. So this is a really early morning, possibly still asleep kind of energy. Excuse me. And this trine will be harmonious. Again, it's going to be a water trine, so very much in its feelings. And we're also going to have Mars involved in all of this. So remember, Mars is kind of aggressive, very overtly masculine energy. But remember, now we have Venus also in Cancer, so that's going to be kind of reining it back in theoretically now. And that could, you could be simultaneously feeling like you understand people better and still kind of have your own blocks and emotional motivations behind your behavior. So that's a possibility for that trine coming through. But it's a great time to let go of toxic emotions because we are going to be in that opportune period. When the moon goes void, of course, we're going to have a sextile between the moon in Pisces and Pluto in Capricorn. And remember, This Pluto is now in retrograde in Capricorn, which is an energy that we saw last year, a little bit earlier in the year than we're seeing it now. It was right before, I think, most people went into lockdown. So this moon in Pisces, you could be revisiting a lot of those things that happened way back when, and having new insights about them, having new, intuitive thoughts coming through, possibly guidance about these situations might be coming in for you. And then the moon enters Aries, end of opportune period for the day. And then we're going to have a trine. This is going to be an air trine. It's Sun in Gemini, and then Saturn in Aquarius. So this trine, the Sun is a very just like in your face, overt energy. And Gemini dealing with dualities, with the differences between you and people with whom you are close, also communication and things like that. And then this Saturn and Aquarius energy, and Saturn's also retrograde right now. Saturn went retrograde Sunday the 23rd. And when I tell you that I slept all day, that happens to me sometimes. Sometimes like I get totally wiped out and I just sleep like all day. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so Saturn in Aquarius, what are we looking at? Saturn's a very solid, like stoic, very established, slow energy. And then we have the Sun in Gemini. Gemini wants to have a good time. Remember, Mercury is native to Gemini. And the reason for that is Gemini's mutable air sign. So, it's very like motion oriented, which Saturn is not really. And so the reason I say this is that the Sun being there is going to shine and illuminate all of those traits of Gemini and bring those to the forefront throughout a lot of the month of June until we move into Cancer. And so this might kind of move some things along. As far as any of these things, you know, Saturn went into Aquarius back in December. So any of these things that you might be seeing that have ground to like a halt, new ideas, might have to do with your social groups, might have to do with social media. If you've seen like any of those things just really come to an absolute standstill, now we're almost looking at like a reversal. And the Sun in Gemini trining this action is going to bring in different angles to that. So it might open up options for you that you didn't consider before. So that's kind of a new idea, but it's not the same kind of new ideas that maybe you were approaching with that Saturn and Aquarius energy previously. It can also challenge the status quo. Saturn is very much about the status quo, and the sign of Aquarius is very much about the iconoclast. So that's something to look out for. There's really a lot of retrograde right now. Let me see. What are we looking at? How many retrogrades? Yeah, so right now in June, the North Node was retrograde for like a day, June 1st. Mercury is retrograde, Saturn, Pluto, and then also Juno. But Saturn being retrograde is kind of a doozy because it's already such a slow energy that once it starts drifting backward, it really feels like things are coming to a halt. There's a square between the moon in Aries and Venus in Cancer. So Venus in Cancer is going to kind of warm up these energies because Cancer is about the reciprocal emotional exchange between people. And so Venus could really set the stage for romance to blossom there, or for financial exchange too. But that's square with the moon in Aries. So bringing things to light about new beginnings, that's possible. There's also emotional states of the self. So reconciling the emotional states of the self with the emotional exchange with other people and having that be harmonious. That might be a little bit tricky. That's going to be in the middle of the afternoon on Thursday the 3rd. Thursday the 3rd. Finally, in the afternoon, we're looking at that trine between Venus in Cancer and Jupiter in Pisces. And Venus and Jupiter are good buddies. They both like money. They both like sex. Jupiter, expansion and fertility. Venus, fertility, money, wealth. Over here with Jupiter. Just generally a good time for money and your relationships with other people. And because it's water, trine, and you're dealing with emotional energies, that will be highlighted. So remember what it said in the OP, opportune period. Great time to let go of toxic emotions and create harmony within. And sometimes those toxic emotions end up being between you and another person, and they end up blocking both of your energies to abundance. So go ahead and clear that out on Thursday. Let's talk about Friday, June 4th. The moon, sorry. I've been having a little bit of sinus congestion, so sometimes my M's come out as B's. The moon in Aries is going to conjunct Chiron. This is a great time to work on yourself, and that's going to be kind of in the middle of the day. We have the moon in Aries then sextile Saturn in Aquarius, which is retrograde. And so remember, like, the status quo is kind of digging its heels in at this point. We're starting to see Saturn kind of pulling back. Looks like it's moving backward. Of course, it's not really. It's just an illusion based on how all of the planets rotate around the sun. But the moon in Aries sextiling this is going to help. It could show you opportunities for new beginnings. So I think a lot of the energies that we're going to end up seeing in this Saturn retrograde in Aquarius are going to have to do with changing your mindset about what you have been doing up until this point, and kind of like fine-tuning and tweaking a few things, and maybe flip this switch up here, twist this over here, and then leaving the room, go get lunch, come back, turn the machine off, boot it back up again. just like the workaround. This might be the year of the workaround. And then finally, in the afternoon and early evening, we have the moon in Aries sextile the sun in Gemini. And the moon sextile the sun, so we've got, this closer body that has a lot of control over the earth. We have this faraway body that has a lot of control over the earth. And in this case, they're not really angling for control. They're trying to complement each other's energies. So that moon in Aries being working on your own emotional states possibly, or things coming to light about a new beginning, creative new beginnings. And the sun being in Gemini, where we're illuminating our relationships with siblings and people who are super close to us, like our neighbors, and looking at the differences between all of us and communication about that. So next we're going to be looking at Saturday, which is the 5th of June, right? June 5th. I always feel like there are more holidays in the early part of June, and there really aren't. We get the solstice later on, but I think, June 4th, isn't that something? No, that's in July. Oh, June 5th, isn't that something? No, you're thinking about May. So, anyway, Saturday, June 5th. In the morning, there is a sextile between the moon in Aries and Mercury in Gemini. And again, that's going to be very similar to the sextile that we saw with the sun in Gemini, with more of an emphasis on communication now and on short distance travel. So you might be going to see friends, and might be having new beginnings to creative projects as well. Around noon or around 3 p.m., depending on if you live on one of the coasts of the United States, there's going to be a square between Mercury and Gemini. And remember, Mercury is retrograde right now. And Neptune in Pisces. So there's all kinds of opportunities for travel plans or communication to go awry. And Neptune in Pisces, usually your intuition is a good thing in these situations, but this might be a case where you end up projecting too much on other people because of what you feel inside, and it might end up tainting your judgment actually when it comes to these communications, and it might muddy the waters. So just be mindful of that. If you get a gut feeling about, I really feel like I'm going to get into a car crash today, it's fine to stay in your house if you really feel that way, but rather than being so subject to your gut feelings, it's perfectly acceptable to sit down and do a divination session about it. Whether that's asking a pendulum questions, or using tarot cards, or ceromancy, pouring wax into water. You've got automatic writing. There's all kinds of different methods that even you, the viewer at home, can use quite easily. I enjoy doing these videos, and I love providing these tools for people, but but you don't need me to tell you, obviously. You're more than capable of doing all these things yourself. So then we're going to have an opposition. And this is very interesting because we have Mars in Cancer in opposition to Pluto in Capricorn, which is retrograde. And again, that Mars energy, the Mars energy over here, very aggressive, very in its feelings right now. And then the Pluto energy, which is up here and is in the sign of Capricorn, being very, analytical thinking is more of a Virgo trait, but Pluto in Capricorn is also a very objective type of mental energy. So definitely in opposition to that Mars in Cancer. And you, especially with Pluto retrograde right now, people might be kind of avoiding things using mental gymnastics. That's a possibility. So person A might have this outburst, you don't ever help me clean up the house. And then person B over here disconnected and being like, well, I have always folded all of my laundry as soon as it's clean and I put it away. And whenever I eat something, I put the dish in the sink. I took out the recycling. But, just kind of going through this laundry list rather than addressing the crux of person A's concerns, which is that they feel like they're not being seen and that their contributions are not being appreciated. Also on Saturday the 5th, we have a square between, so we have two squares then right around the same time, about 10 minutes apart, and that's going to be in the afternoon or early evening. And one of those is going to be when the moon is void of course, right before the moon enters Taurus, which is going to happen overnight, but we'll get to that. So the moon in Aries is first going to square this Pluto in Capricorn, which is retrograde, which we talked about, and then is going to square the moon or Mars in Cancer, which we also just talked about. So that's almost like person C coming in and attempting to patch things up between persons A and B, but not because they're invested in the situation. They come in and they want to patch things up between their two roommates because they're arguing loudly, and it's interfering with person C's home enjoyment experience. And so person C comes in and says, hey, rather than saying, hey, I think you guys are a little too loud, could you please keep it down? Although that is an option for one thing that energy might be saying to each one. It's going up to each one individually, and it's saying, hey, what's going on? How are you today? How are you feeling? And then the person starts talking about it, and they say, oh, hold on, can you hold that thought? They've been looking at their watch. This is your 10 minutes. Your 10 minutes is up. I'm going to move on to the other person and ask them how their day has been and how their day is doing. Oh, okay. Well, that seems legitimate. I mean, I can help with that if it would make you feel better. Just kind of paying lip service to these things in kind of a superficial way. And then the moon enters Taurus. So finally here, we are going to talk about Sunday, June 6th. The moon in Taurus is going to have 2 sextiles on this day, one of which is going to be with Jupiter in Pisces, and one of which is going to be with Venus in Cancer. So this moon in Taurus energy is a very nurturing kind of energy. It's a very maternal sort of energy. And of course, Venus is native to the sign of Taurus and also native to the sign of Libra. So when we get to that sextile between Venus in Cancer and the moon in Taurus, that's going to be a very warm and romantic, possibly kind of dreamy, but emotionally charged, very emotionally charged, because we're looking at Cancerian energy there, and the reciprocity of emotions between people, which can, of course, lead to sparks. And then that moon in Taurus sextile Jupiter in Pisces, wealth and expansion, but in a very nebulous way that might not make a lot of sense. That moon in Taurus is going to be kind of grounding to that, while still maintaining the water energy of the moon. The moon controls all that water here on Earth, so that Taurus placement is going to have kind of a stabilizing effect on that. And it might give you an opportunity to really get a hold of this Jupiter in Pisces energy as far as like what your expansion path looks like, what that manifestation under Jupiter in Pisces might be. And those energies are both going to occur pretty early in the morning. The moon entering Taurus is an overnight energy. So you could go outside and watch the moon, and watch it go into the sign of Taurus if you want. It's going to be 10:46 p.m. on the west coast and 1:46 a.m. on the east coast. Hi Aries, welcome back. I'm going to be using my big chunk of obsidian to gaze for you today. And I see a tree. There's a tree. There might be a swing on the tree too. This might be, so when I was very small, my grandparents had a farm in South Georgia, and they had pecan trees. And on the limb of one of these pecan trees, we had a swing. And because the ropes of the swing were so high, you could really get some air on that swing. It was quite dangerous. My sister fell off one time and they took her to the hospital just in case. So I'm feeling like these warm, nostalgic memories rushing back for you of this thing from your childhood that was a very happy memory. It could even be, for a lot of you, this was something that was in your backyard, but I'm hearing also that for some of you, this was something that was next to a body of water, like a small pond or a lake, and you would swing out over the lake and you could jump in the water from the swing. So, and go out there with the fish. You could even like sit on the swing and fish, maybe, for some of you too. But for some of you, I'm seeing that this was specifically in a backyard and it wasn't close to a body of water. But the meaning of the swing is like back and forth and things returning from your childhood. So it could be if you are a person whose parents got divorced, for example, and you went back and forth between their two homes. There could be something about that that comes back, like maybe one piece of something was left at one parent's house and one piece of it was left at the other parent's house. That's a possibility. We're also looking at a time frame. So going back and forth in a very short time frame. Like maybe if you moved houses. So this wouldn't necessarily be if your parents were divorced, but like if during your childhood you moved somewhere and then maybe you moved back and it was in a very short time frame. Or if there was a time where you, because it's specifically back and forth, a metronome. So it could have even been something like music lessons involved. Seeing the back and forth motion of that swing as being very representative of that time in your life for you. And that could be a connection that you made at the time, but it could also be something that didn't get connected until now. Yeah, the warped lens of youth. So there could have been something that you saw in a very distorted way, whether it was idealized, overly idealized, or whether it was just totally off base, distorted. This perspective that you had about something that you held for a long time, that's going to be returning to you, and you're going to understand the totality of that situation in a much more complete way. Okay. Let's move on to the bibliomancy. If you would just direct your imagination here. Let me know your questions telepathically, of course. You can speak them to the screen and I might hear them telepathically too. All right. Yes. Yes, okay, so thou shalt be subject to a frequent change of residence. So you might get a new perspective on moves that were made during your childhood. And it doesn't just have to be like moving your house. It does say thou shalt be subject to a frequent change of residence, but it might not just be your house. It might have been like if you were in one class placement and then you were moved to a different class, or groups of friends, or any number of things like that. All right, Aries, I hope you enjoyed your reading. If you did, let me know down below, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Hello, Taurus. I'm going to be using my obsidian for the crystal scrying reading today. I see a book, like a ledger, or like a guest book. Or like Old Scratch asking you to put your name in his book, too. There are financial ramifications to this. There's also the idea that what you're selling is actually a part of yourself for the week ahead. We are moving into a new month, so a lot of concerns come up at the top of the month. Sometimes your bills are due then, like rent and things like that. So if there is a pressing financial concern on your mind, be very careful about how much flesh you cut off. You give him a pound and don't give him any more. All right. Yeah, the retrogrades. I think for some of you, these retrogrades are really hammering things home. And I don't know why I would feel that for Taurus specifically, because you don't have any retrograde planets in your sign right now. You do have Uranus in your sign, and the moon will be entering your sign at the end of the week. And Uranus has been retrograde in your sign over the past year. Yeah, I'm feeling that it's getting like hot under the collar for you. Like all of those really ridiculous cartoons, or you might have even seen a scene like this in a chick tract, for example, where you see the businessman in the gray suit and he's down in hell and he's sitting across from the devil at a desk. I'm hearing that it's not the devil, it's Asmodeus. Sorry. Anyway, so he's sitting across from this official down in hell, and striking a deal. And you might be getting quite the bargain this week, Taurus. You might actually be getting out ahead in this situation, but you're feeling a little hot in the collar, and I feel it. I feel it like on my neck. I can feel the flames. It's pretty intense, but not. You just feel like you're selling out, basically, by doing this. And you're not sure if the reward that you might reap for your treason to yourself is going to be worth it. And I can tell you that in the long run, yes, it will be. All right, let's move on to the bibliomancy. And if you would, direct your questions right here to the cover of the book. Direct them right here. Yeah, I think I got it. Be contented with thy present fortune, but also keep in mind that fortune favors the brave and enterprising. So be content with it, but you're always allowed to strive for more. All right, Taurus. Well, if you enjoyed this reading, I hope that you'll leave me a comment down below. And I look forward to seeing you very soon. Hello, Gemini. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Gemini season. A lot of you are going to be having birthdays this week. And there are a few planets in Gemini right now. Venus is in Gemini, but will be moving into Cancer during this week. And Mercury is also in Gemini and is currently retrograde. So don't take that too much to heart, though. I'm sure you'll still have a great time. We'll be using my obsidian this week. Yeah, I see like normal birthday stuff, normal. Oh, somebody's trying to have a pool party and they get rained out. So if you are planning a pool party, check the forecast. Check the forecast. I think you would still have time to change your plans if you have to make some last minute alterations. There's a dress that you want to wear. and you don't know if people are ready for it. So for some of you, this is going to be that you actually decide to come out as trans this week. For some of you, you're just going to be wearing a dress. You don't have to be trans to wear a dress. You feel comfortable in it. You've always wanted to wear it. You're going to wear it. And whether or not people are ready for that. So this could be something specific to wardrobe, but it could also be part of your personality. It could be getting a tattoo. Could be dyeing your hair. Could be buying a pair of moon boots. My parents said they didn't work, but I don't care. I just like how they look. So that's possible too. And you may find yourself wishing that you had done this a long time ago, that you had just gone ahead and made this part of your presentation from the beginning. I think it will be well received, especially if you time it with your birthday, because it's really hard to say to somebody on their birthday, I disagree with your lifestyle choices. But then you also have to risk someone who's just extra mean ruining your birthday, so there's that too. It could go one of two ways. What else am I seeing here? This is like a chair made out of pasta? That doesn't make any sense. Because it's a chair that would support a human body. So it's not like you made a tiny chair out of pasta. It's like you have a chair that's made out of pasta. And what is the significance of this chair made out of pasta? If you don't get it wet and hot, it works great. So that could be a warning that's connected to the pool party for sure. But it could also be about not putting too much pressure on something in your life that is meant more as a novelty and not meant to be your primary functional object. If you have another chair, you might want to use that chair. If you have a chair made out of pasta, you keep that for when your friends come over and you need an extra chair. And you're like, hey, check it out. Why don't you sit on my fun chair made out of pasta? And then I'll sit in the normal chair and judge you. I'm just kidding. That's not what you do. But you could. The point being that the chair made out of pasta is not the one that you should be using every day. You should get just like a normal functional folding chair for that. And save the chair made out of pasta for special occasions. So all of you are going to have something that's like that chair made out of pasta. And it could be like, one thing I've noticed about decks of cards is that not all of the cases stand up to be carried around all the time. And some cards have a nice plastic coating, so if you get them wet, it's not a big deal. Other cards, you get them wet, and that's it. That's the end of that story. Crystals, things like kyanite can be very fragile. I think it's called celestite. Can be very fragile, and you look at it wrong and it just crumbles, right? So you wouldn't want that knocking around in your bag. You're just going to end up with a little pile of blue dust, right? this is something like that, that it's very cool. It's a very neat thing to have around. And maybe your life wouldn't end if something happened to it, but you enjoy having it around. So be a little careful with it. Use something else instead. Let's move on to the bibliomancy. Alright, Gemini, direct your question right here into the cover of the book, and we'll see what's up. Will my beloved prove true in my absence? Consider whether thou art not thyself the cause of thy misfortunes. If so, be more prudent in the future. So, will my beloved prove true in my absence? Well, maybe you just shouldn't go anywhere. Without your beloved, of course. Gemini, if you enjoyed this reading, I hope you'll leave me a comment down below. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Hi Cancer, welcome back. I'm going to be using my obsidian this week. Let's see. Hold on. Let me get a drink of water. Things were a little cloudy. Okay. Let's see what's going on, Cancer. Have you seen that Kenneth Anger movie, Inauguration of the Pleasure Dome? So one of the main features of that film, is very opulent surroundings. Obviously the Pleasure Dome being this place where magical things that are pleasurable happen. And Marjorie Cameron's in it, who was the Scarlet Woman involved in the Babylon workings with Jack Parsons and the other guy, L. Ron Hubbard. She's in that film. So I'm bringing this up right now because there's an opportunity for you to be involved in something like that. She was a very powerful magician in her own right and got involved with these guys, and they did together this really intensive working. And then she went on to be in this Kenneth Anger film and went on to do her own stuff as well. And has books published and stuff like that. It could be that you get involved with a group of people, and what you end up doing is a lot of work, but it also ends up being a lot of fun. And because you're involved with these two other people who are more like the driving force behind the project, that you are able to really shine in your own capacity because you're not focusing on the logistics and the making it happen. You let them worry about the make it happen, and then you pay attention to the things that you really enjoy about it. So that's part of your reading for the week ahead. Give you a tea bag. I don't know that it's necessarily that kind of a tea bag, but it could be. But it could also be herbs. Getting herbs in a wet, smelly paper bag. Are you drinking tea with this person? I mean, yeah, I'll be frank with you. There could be sexual elements to this. So, it's going to open a lot of doors for you. To segue into your own successes. That's the primary thing that I'm seeing for you this week, Cancer. What else can I show Cancer about this situation coming up over the next week? I see like an old-timey ship, and like if you feel like being on a ship and rocking with the sea, like an old wooden ship with the big masts, almost like a pirate ship, but I'm feeling like this is a trade vessel, and that you being on board are a hired hand. This isn't like a conscription situation. This is more like this is a legitimate job. You guys are shipping goods across the ocean. And hearing the creaking of the wood boards as they kind of rub against each other while the boat is in motion. And there's like a little jet of water coming up through the floor. It's not a lot. It's not very much water. But if you don't find a way to keep it from coming in, obviously, it very well could sink the vessel. So you have to figure out some way of plugging up this hole in the ship's hull. And you're out in the middle of the ocean, so you take a piece of pitch of like pine tar and chew it in your mouth to soften it up like bubble gum, and then you jam it down in this hole. But you have to be careful doing that, because if you split the wood, it'll make it way worse. I don't think that's what ends up happening. But that's the kind of thing that'll weigh heavy on a person's mind when you're out at sea for months at a time. And there might be something like that. There's kind of like an underlying nagging thought that keeps bubbling up to the surface in your mind. And you keep putting little wads of bubble gum to stop it from flowing in. Yeah. Let's move into the bibliomancy. Oh, before I end that part, the nagging thought is kind of like, what am I going to do when this is over? And the truth is, by the time it's over, you're going to have so many ideas of your own, you're going to be well prepared. Anyway, Cancer. Direct your questions here, if you would, for me, please. All right. See that thou deservest to be well spoken of. I think that, I think you'll probably do a great job. Not too worried about that. See that thou deservest to be well spoken of. Maybe cautioning you to protect your reputation professionally and otherwise. Alright, Cancer, well, if you enjoyed this reading, please leave me a comment down below. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Hello, Leo. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So I'm going to be using my obsidian for the readings this week. And let's see what's going on for Leo. I often see the Serengeti for your reading because a lot of lions live there. What else is going on with Leo this week? Okay, so San Francisco in the 1960s was a very particular capsule of time. There was a lot that happened there, and a lot of it was fun, a lot of it was oriented towards social change, and some of it was very dark. And so it was truly a cultural revolution. And it's a reminder, because we're going through another cultural revolution right now, perpetuated by global events. And because of the proliferation of the internet and social media, this is going on everywhere at once. So it's very different from the Summer of Love in San Francisco, but it's also intrinsically, the blueprint is the same, but the furnishings are different. Things are not always all bad or all good. There's a balance. Some things are going to happen that are amazing, that are phenomenal, and other things are going to happen that you're going to think this is the bad timeline, right? But the truth is that because we are here on this planet, and we are here on this planet because this is not the bad timeline, this is a neutral timeline, in that everything eventually all evens out. Not exactly, but in the global scheme of things. And we're here to learn, primarily, and to experience. And you cannot experience only good, you cannot experience only bad. But what is really coming through is that there is the opportunity for the same kind of transformative climate that you saw in places like London, the swinging 60s in London. You saw it in San Francisco. Of course, there was stuff going on here in LA. People all over the world were going through this cultural revolution of the baby boomers. And I was actually talking about this with my spouse and their friend earlier, because a few people have been talking about how emo is coming back, and the truth is that and they're both closer to Gen X, they're closer to Gen Z, dating myself by calling them Gen X. Who even remembers Gen X? The millennials do. Those are our older brothers and sisters. Possibly a youngish uncle or aunt. So the millennials really never got the opportunity to do anything fun except be a hipster, or be emo. And they're desperately clinging to pop culture. And of course, Gen Z is doing their own thing. And people talk about there being this rivalry. I don't think it's as much that. I think that, again, this isn't a black and white situation. But I think that a lot of millennials remember being emo fondly because it was like a part of their coming of age. And so they might be revisiting that now, especially when we are in this particular period of time. So there's a nostalgia too, right? Because what I'm seeing is like that idea of the 1960s in Haight-Ashbury, right? And where the Grateful Dead and Jefferson Airplane, and you could see all of them giving a free concert right in the park across the street. There's a certain nostalgia that also provides context for our idea of what that looks like. And it may be accurate and it may not. You're allowed to enjoy new things. It doesn't have to look exactly like it did before. You can have new things now, and they could be better. Let's move on to the bibliomancy. All right, Leo, if you would direct your questions right here, right now, right here, right now, right here, right now. Okay. Is that Meat Beat Manifesto? Who did that song? If you remember that song and you know what I'm talking about, let me know in the comments. Sad is his fate, who relies solely on the friendship and goodwill of others. Boy, if that isn't a bootstrappy thing to say to a millennial, I don't know what is. And I'm talking to Gen Z too. Everybody has great ideas. You know, just go out there and express your great ideas. They can be influenced by the things you're nostalgic for, be influenced by the past. But don't fall victim to it, I guess. Don't let it leave you in the doggy crate over the weekend without feeding you. Leo, if you enjoyed this reading, please leave me a comment down below, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Hello, Virgo. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I'm going to be using my obsidian for the readings this week. You're getting into the gifted program, so some of you might have the opportunity for an advanced placement type situation. This might be a promotion at work, it might be the gifted program at school, it might look like a residency at a nice gallery or at an artist community. Fruit basket. You're going to could be getting into the gifted program, and you could be gifted a fruit basket. A cornucopia, if you will. And this has to do with Jupiter being in Pisces right now. What is it about Jupiter in Pisces that makes it especially relevant to Virgo this week? I feel like it has to do with on Thursday the 3rd, in the afternoon or evening, there's going to be a trine, and it's going to be between Venus in Cancer and Jupiter in Pisces. So, Virgo, some of you might be influenced by that energy. Specifically, you might be experiencing like that all has to do with these emotional energies of healing toxic parts of yourself. So it might be about the toxic parts of the self. And then this Jupiter in Pisces expansion period that we're going through is a little bit unpredictable, which I did mention in the ephemera at the beginning of the video. So if you're a little confused, you can back up and watch that again. But basically the idea that because Piscean energy, it's intuition, it's like mutable water, so very passive, very flexible. You don't want that when you have expansion necessarily, because things will kind of ooze out in a really unpredictable way. You want to be able to control a good expansion period. But it's going to make things a little bit unpredictable. And so this might be a good opportunity for you to harness that too and work on that energy specifically. And I see like a nice little wooden desk, like a secretary desk with the folding top. So you can like keep stuff inside, you can keep stuff organized. So for some of you that might be a possibility. And when you're looking for stuff in the dark, you know where it is. So for some of you, you're going to be organizing things and putting them in such a way that if it's dark, you still know where things are, which is something that I've been working on personally. You can just put your hand on it and you know that it's there. And what else does Virgo need to know for this week ahead? This hasn't really been tied up very tightly. Yeah, there's going to be like a new opportunity coming in for you. And because of all of the organizing and the work that you've done, you're going to be primed to take advantage of it. And because of this Jupiter in Pisces energy, the expansion that you experience might be unpredictable. So that's where this organization is going to benefit you, because all of your business is going to be organized in the midst of this possible chaos. Whew. Okay, let's move on to the bibliomancy. So if you would, Virgo, direct your questions right here. Yes, I think so. I mean, that's totally up to you. It's not really my call to make. A revolutionary spirit is abroad among the nations of the earth. How fortuitous. Virgo, thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this segment, please let me know down in the comments. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Libra, lovely, lovely Libra. Welcome back. Welcome back. So this week I'm going to be using this big chunk of obsidian for the readings. Something about birth control. But I'm also seeing kind of like the inside of a church or the inside of a courtroom. Some of you may decide to get married based around a pregnancy. That's a possibility. But that's not the totality of it, because that looks different for everybody. So it could also be a situation where you start a band with somebody and you end up getting famous. That's actually, yes, that is the same kind of energy as getting married to someone because you're pregnant. Believe it or not. Energetically, very similar signatures. When you're looking at these events in the context of the storytelling of divination, of weaving all of these things together, you're reading these energy signatures, and sometimes symbols will pop up, but those symbols are not going to be exactly the same for everyone, just because you have that astrological sign in your chart. So it might show up one way, and it might look like that for certain people, but it might look different for other people. But it's a similar energy signature. Coffee? Yeah, I smell like coffee. I don't mean like I smell like coffee. I mean that I smell like coffee, and I feel like the grounds in my hand. So it's possible that you drink a lot of coffee, or that you're responsible for making the coffee. And if this is the case, again, this could be something where you actually make coffee for yourself and other people. Maybe you're a barista. But it could be a situation where people are counting on you to get their day kick-started in some way, shape, or form. Maybe you're also the person who distributes mail at the beginning of the day, or possibly you are a taxi driver, you drive for a rideshare service, and you take people where they need to go. And this is kind of like kicking off the day, this energy, and might be very underappreciated, especially because when people first wake up in the morning and they are getting ready to drink their coffee, if it's not ready and they're expecting it to be ready, people can get very bent out of shape about that, and they might take it out on you, even if that's unwarranted. So you might play a part in this situation where your contributions are essential but underappreciated. And what else do I need to tell Libra about this situation? I see a garter belt too, and I hear girlfriend. So some of you, that might be related to the wedding. But for some of you, it might be that because when you throw the garter belt, that's like a symbol of when whoever catches the garter belt is supposed to be the next in line to get married, right? So it could be there's a passing of the torch involved in this that might have a little bit to do with chance. Okay. Let's move on to the bibliomancy. All right, Libra, if you would, direct any and all questions into this book. Great job. You're doing fantastic, Libra. You are doing just great. No, I'm not being sarcastic. Why would you say that? Is it over here? Is it over here? Many of thy sex will envy thee the possession of so comely and so kind a husband. So there you go, Libra. Congratulations. It's your future. If if you enjoyed this reading, please let me know down in the comments. Thank you for coming, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Scorpio, Scorpio, Scorpio. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. So for the readings this week, I'm using my obsidian. Scorpio. What do I see here for you? It's like cold concrete, harsh surroundings. I went to, is it called Zuccotti Park in New York one time with a friend. And it's like all brick. There's like trees, but they're like planted in the brick. And it's kind of harsh, and it's really close to Wall Street. And that's, that was like the epicenter of Occupy Wall Street. So out of this very harsh environment, I think the flower of your revolution will grow. It's going to be a period of time where you feel very pressed down upon by your surroundings. They're going to feel very harsh. They're going to grate. And you're going to wish for a better life. And you're going to refuse to die. And you're just going to keep growing in spite of this harsh environment. And it's going to, the tension created by that situation is going to generate the energy necessary for you to manifest what it is that you want. So be ready to channel that energy for all that you're worth, because Jupiter of wealth and expansion is in Pisces right now, and it is an excellent time to be pushing that agenda, Scorpio. Especially, is it early in the week? Tuesday, the moon is going to enter Pisces, and the moon and Jupiter are going to be conjunct in Pisces, which is your fellow water sign. I apologize for that barking. It can be very loud in here sometimes. Anyway, so that is going to be the perfect time for you to really set your agenda with that. Scorpio is fixed water energy, and Pisces is mutable water energy. So you, as a water sign, are going to have the unique capability of enforcing a little more structure on that energy of the moon and Jupiter conjunct in Pisces. So I invite you to do that, Scorpio. All right, let's move on to the bibliomancy. If you would, direct your questions, Scorpio, right here into the cover of the book. All right. Oh, good heavens. In 10 years from this time, unless by too little dependence on thyself thou drive fortune from thy door, thou shalt be called a rich man. Scorpio, if you enjoyed your forecast this week, I hope you'll leave me nice comments down below, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Hello, Sagittarius, and welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back. I'm going to be using my obsidian for the readings this week. Sagittarius. There's like some boxed pasta products. Could be hot Cheeto mac and cheese. It could be Velveeta. It's warm and comforting, and it's easy to prepare. So there's going to be aspects of that in your week ahead of a leaning on these things that are warm, comforting, and easy to obtain, easy to prepare. Don't take a lot of investment on your part. But these things should be a tool for you. They should not be a crutch. So you only really want to be relying on this kind of sustenance if you have plans to eat better in the future, or if you are eating these things right now because you're in the middle of a project and you don't want to think about it too much, and you really don't want to eat that more than once a day, and you don't want to eat it every day of the week. It can be easy to fall into these habits that seem perfectly fine, but can really lead to problems later on. That you're not building a solid foundation. It feels solid because it's comforting, but it's not a good foundation. It's too soft. So you need to eat, because now I see like a whole bunch of vegetables coming in. So this isn't necessarily about diet, but it's going to be some kind of aspect of your daily life that possibly relates to your health. It could relate to diet, but it could also relate to video games. If you're playing video games, and you're like, I will get to X, Y, or Z when I'm done with this level. Maybe you need to cut back on your screen time. I am terrible about putting my phone down. I can just sit there in a loop, opening the same 3 apps over and over again for hours if I don't pay attention. It could happen to anybody. I'm not saying that I'm better than you and you should do this because I'm a fortune teller. It's a suggestion. I really want everyone to have the best life possible. There might be other aspects to this too. Have you been depressed? Have you been getting sunshine? Have you been brushing your teeth? I feel like some parts of this are because you are lacking basic comforts of some kind in the rest of your life. So you're trying to eke out some kind of comfort from this stimulus. So again, could be like something like video games. Sorry, I had a sneeze in my nose. Okay, allergies. Yeah, it could be something like video games. It could be like eating comfort foods. It could be, it could even be something like not putting proper clothing on. Like wearing pajamas to the grocery store. It's not necessarily like that's bad, but it's not a good habit to keep. So there's something like that, and it's because, there's some way that you're not getting a need met. And that could look different for everybody. But what you have to understand is that it's not about this over here. It's about getting this need met. And until that happens, you're not going to feel satisfied with yourself. And the way to get this need met is to take really good care of yourself and work toward your goals. And when you start doing that, everything's going to normalize, and that's going to kind of fall into place. So, I certainly am not trying to preach to you. That's just what I'm getting from the crystal for you this week, Sagittarius. And the only reason that I know so much about it is because sometimes I'm there too. Alright, if you would direct your questions here into the cover of the book. Yeah, I think there's probably an answer to that in here somewhere. When thy misfortunes press hardest on thee, be not dismayed, but endeavor to remove them. Thank you for joining me, Sagittarius. If you enjoyed your reading, please let me know down in the comments. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Hello, Capricorn. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I have a really interesting thread on one of my previous videos where a lot of the Capricorns have chimed in. I'm a Capricorn. I was born January 8th. I was born January 15th. Oh, that's so cool. That's my cousin's birthday. This, that, and the other. So I want to say that I really appreciate all of you showing up. It means a lot to me. I'm going to be using my obsidian for the readings this week. And shining it on my shirt and taking a big bite. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to shine it on my shirt though, so it'll be nice and reflective. Smoke and mirrors. Hazy, like the moors of Scotland. Yes, I did watch a lot of Simpsons growing up, so you're gonna hear probably more Simpsons references than anything else. Fuzzy, like Willie's beard. No, but seriously. What I'm kind of seeing here is that there is an intentional obfuscation. So that you are controlling the narrative in a certain situation. Now, this is not necessarily bad. I am not the kind of person who thinks that all manipulation is evil. I think that sometimes you can manipulate someone in a totally benign way. Or you can manipulate someone and it benefits both of you, you know? Controlling other people is, you know, like a necessary part of life. And I think that, or rather should I say influencing other people. You are controlling the narrative very tightly on this issue because it affects you immensely. This could be a secret about your past, like if you've done sex work or if you were a victim of incest, or if you haven't held down a job for more than 3 years at a time. Any of those things. I certainly don't mean to trigger anyone, but I'm illustrating a few different examples. Those were the ones that came to mind of things that you would really, really want to control the narrative. Maybe you spent time in prison and you really want to control the narrative as to why you were there and the conditions of your release. And the cracks are starting to show. And this could either be if you experienced trauma from this thing in your life. There could be situations that are bringing that to the surface right now. Or that, the information pipeline is finally catching up with you on something. And you've controlled this narrative for so tightly, for so long. It could be anything. It could be you accidentally ran over the family pet. And you didn't mean to do it, but you covered it up. Or you lied about it to protect your own reputation. Like, even if it was an accident, you backed over the pet, in theory. I'm not saying that you actually did that, but that you don't want people to think poorly about you because of this thing that happened, that you had some culpability for. Not in the case of a victim, of course. You wouldn't have had culpability in that situation. But that you do have a responsibility for your own trauma and not re-traumatizing yourself by having to, basically explain that to every person that you meet. And you are going to have to deal with it. Now, I don't know if the full thing is going to come out this week. But I feel like this week is going to be your opportunity to shift the narrative on your own terms. And that if you think that you can continue to cover it up, or that you feel like you can just sweep it under the rug, that is not going to be the case. And it's important for you to decide, how are you going to put this out in a way that is not detrimental to you. Okay. All right, Capricorn. If you would, just direct your questions into the cover of the book. You know the drill. You guys do a great job. No. Leave off play as the clock strikes 12. After that hour, there is no luck for thee. So keep that in mind as you move forward this week, Capricorn. Maybe keep an earlier bedtime. Everyone benefits from more sleep. All right, Capricorn. Well, if you enjoyed this reading, please let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Aquarius, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So, for your reading this week, I'm going to be using this chunk of obsidian. Obsidian. something about getting your clothes ready for you. I'm going to get your clothes ready for you, like maybe you're getting ready. Yeah, I see people putting on like what could be considered church clothes, a suit or a nice dress, very classy, tasteful, not ostentatious, like a charcoal gray kind of a suit, possibly, like a nice floral muted tone dress. I'll put your clothes out on the bed for you, getting ready for some kind of event like that. And I think you're substituting the weekend for this, for this ceremony. May 31st is Memorial Day, so it definitely could have something to do with Memorial Day. Especially if you had family members who served in the armed forces, or if you use Memorial Day as a day to remember loved ones who are deceased, or to visit cemeteries, but I get that, yeah, you guys are like packing up. It's in a paper bag. It's like a couple sandwiches and maybe like a piece of fruit or two. Maybe fried chicken. It depends on what you're into, of course. Excuse me. But yeah, you're kind of like rushing, get showered, get all made up, get into your nice clothes, and then we gotta go. Mortuary home. So you might be going to a funeral home. You might be going to somebody's funeral. But it might also be just the overarching idea of Memorial Day kind of carrying throughout the week. And that there's no better time than the future. But it's not just that. It's like this idea that there's no better time than the present because you might not get a future. You could have had a friend pass away very young and be thinking about that this week. You could be remembering going to church for somebody's funeral. You could be remembering going to a funeral. But it might also be representative of hurry up and get ready, because there's about to be a big ending for you. That something is going to come to an end, and then we're going to start the next thing, right? Somebody's done writing a book. So for somebody, this represents that you have finished writing your book. It's completely done. You're about to send it off to the publisher. So you have to hurry up and make any last revisions that you need to make because it's about to go out to the publisher. So that's going to be for somebody. And of course, writing a book, making an album, any creative endeavors like that, that's the same kind of vibe. Apostate. So for some of you, this going to this funeral might be a situation where you had separated yourself or been excommunicated from a group of people, and you are going to be seeing a lot of those people again at this particular event. You're maybe allowed to participate in this event because of its nature. If it were a parent or a sibling or somebody you're very close to who has passed away, but that you have to be like on your best behavior for this particular engagement. And that a lot of people are kind of going to have their eye on you and be judging you, which is not ideal, especially for Aquarius. What else do I need to tell Aquarius? You're going to have a supportive partner or friend there with you. You be able to bring a person with you for support, and whoever it is that you end up bringing with you is going to be a good supportive person to bring, and it'll help you a lot to have this person there with you. And the context, yeah, I don't think people are going to really question you about the context, or if they do, it's not going to be important. That person's just going to be there to support you, and they're gonna be disconnected enough from the event itself that they're not going to get emotionally invested in any kind of little squabbly, nitpicky things with any of the people who are there. They're an ideal person to take, ideal candidate, regardless of who it is, a partner or a friend. Yeah. And so what I want you to do, Aquarius, is sit down for a long time before this event. And you're going to write a letter to that person. And if this is the scenario where you're writing the book, this might be a situation where you're sitting down and you're writing the introduction. I want you to put more care and thought into the introduction than you put into the whole rest of the book. Treat it as if you are writing a letter to your child. If this is about an ending to something else, I want you to sit down before this event occurs, because it seems like there is a timeline to it, that you're going to have advance notice that this event is taking place. So go ahead and sit down and write this letter. And it could even be a letter to yourself, talking about everything about this situation, just to process it. And then if you're going to the funeral, you're going to take this letter and you're going to stick it in the pocket of the deceased person for them to take with them. And that's it. Let's go on to the bibliomancy. Alright, Aquarius, please direct your questions into the cover of the book. Yes. Yeah, I'm really glad that you came today. Thank you for that. If thou actest prudently and uprightly, thou needest not fear the tongue of the slanderer. So there you go. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You're going to do great, Aquarius. If you enjoyed this reading, please leave me comments down below. Thank you for coming. I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Pisces, 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 Pisces. Jupiter is in your sign right now, and the moon will be in your sign early in the week. So go back and listen to the ephemera at the beginning of the video if you want to know more about that. Jupiter and the moon are going to be conjunct, I think on Tuesday, June 1st. So that's worth looking into for you Pisces out there. I'm going to be using my obsidian for the readings this week. Pisces, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Kurt Vonnegut book, Breakfast of Champions. There was also an astonishing movie made starring Bruce Willis and Barbara Hershey, and it's got, I think, Lucas Haas in it, and just a bunch of other people. It's really, is it Lucas Haas or is it Elijah Wood? I always get them confused, honestly. They look very similar. But one of them is in the movie and plays the son of Bruce Willis and Barbara Hershey. Anyway, that's not the important part. There's a character, Kilgore Trout, who's kind of a self-insert for Kurt Vonnegut in some ways, but I suspect not a total analog. And he refers to mirrors as leaks because they are portals between worlds. And this idea really left an impression on me. I do not like sleeping in front of mirrors for this reason, because you never know when something might come out. Or if you might go in there and not be able to get back. There were some Gumby episodes about that too. All of these things have made a great impression on me. But the point being that at the very end of the book and also in the movie, this happens in both. Kilgore Trout is reaching the end of his time in this realm. And he looks at a mirror or a leak, and he sees this beautiful paradise. And he knows, and he sees someone beckoning to him from inside of the leak. And he knows that it's time for him to go through the veil into the other world and stay there. So Pisces, there could be a transition like this for you occurring. And it could be leaving one lifestyle behind and moving into paradise. Because if you are familiar with that work, the world inside of Breakfast of Champions is a very hectic place, and things are almost always less than ideal. People are having affairs. Bunny has all of these aspirations. That's the son of Bruce Willis and Barbara Hershey. Bunny has all these aspirations to be a respected performer and is a virtuosic pianist. And no one understands their act. And you probably could have thought of Bunny as like a non-binary person in the context of that story. But the point being that everyone in this story is like really not having their best life. And Kilgore Trout is the only one who gets this opportunity. And I think maybe Bruce Willis does too, but I don't remember. But anyway, so the point being that you're going to be able to move from this less than ideal scenario of the present into this beautiful, bright future, where everything gets as close to perfect as it possibly could be. If you ever read that book or saw the movie, I'd really love to get your thoughts on it down in the comments. I don't know if I remembered it exactly right. My memory is a liar. And I will be very certain of things that are not actually the case sometimes. But that's neither here nor there. You have to be able to see things from a variety of different angles in order to crystal scry. And so it's just a side effect of that. You would think it would make the picture more clear, but actually it just looks like cubism. Anyhow, so Pisces, you're going to get this opportunity to escape into a better future. And if you would, please humor me and direct your questions here into the cover of this book. Great job. Yeah, you guys always do a great job. All of these pages have letters at the top, right? So I'm going to go to this page, which is P. P for Pisces. 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Be thine own advocate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Thou shalt assuredly find something, but it will not be of much value to thee. So if you think that you're looking for something that you're trying to find, reevaluate your quest, because the answer might just be already in front of you. Thank you for coming today, Pisces. If you enjoyed this reading, please let me know down in the comments. I love to hear from you guys. Always the nice things. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon.